Ladies, gentlemen, other, misc, welcome to this very special video where I'm going to be talking about a video game, and not just any video game, a video game that I myself happen to have worked on. This is the very long-awaited, probably, update on Project Ice Emblem, something I made a video on a long time ago. I was talking about my attempts to make my own little video game. It's something like a cross between Mountain Blade and Fire Emblem, and right now you, yes you, have the chance to give it a play for me. I'm going to put a link down in the description to a zip file which contains the game, so you can download it right now and give it a play. So why should you do this? Not only because it is the greatest game of all time, of course, but because we're kind of in this concept demo phase, that's what I'm calling it at least, where I've made most of the mechanics and you can kind of tell how the game's going to work from where it is now. So what would be really good would be if you could provide me with some free alpha tests. I mean, if you could download the game, play it, and then tell me what you liked or didn't like about it in the comments. It's not too hard. You might even enjoy it. So yes, it'll just be good to get some ideas for where the game should go from here. So when you're playing it, think like, what would you like to be different? What do you think should be added to make it more fun? What do you think could be taken away to make it more fun? That sort of thing. And I would like to get a sort of mesh of ideas from the viewers to see what people think, because I'm sure many of you play these so-called video games and may have something that could steer this particularly high quality game in a better direction for the next stage of development, which will be something called the vertical slice, where it's kind of the same thing, another demo, but it has all the mechanics in it and it's more polished. You'll see there's tons of placeholder stuff, most notably the map graphics. They are MS Paint tier. It's got some real graphics and it's got real music, some real sound effects, quite a lot of joke sound effects. It's hard to say. Anyway, so with that introduction out the way, what this video is going to be is essentially the tutorial for the game, because it doesn't have one. So I'm going to play some of the game myself in this video and talk to you about how it works, and I guess just talk through some design elements of it and why I think it works as a game, to help anyone who wants to add their own 2 cents to that understand where I'm coming from with this little game that I've made. So here we are on the title screen. Now I did actually try to make a video explaining all the mechanics in the game, but it took 1 hour and 20 minutes to explain. Basically this game has simple mechanics that are deep in practice. That's the idea. Like, it's really basic to use, but the ways that you can use it are so varied, and there are optimal ways of doing things that you can find depth. That's what I hope. So what I'm going to do now is explain in the most basic possible terms and just be like, here's what you can do. I'm going to tell you what tools are in the game, what things you can do in the game, and it's going to be up to you to find out how to use them. See how that goes. So you click start new game, you can pick a difficulty, it tells you what they do. We'll skip through there. This shows you the map and tells you something about the development and something of the lore down there. We're going to skip that as well because you can read that yourself. We'll not talk about any lore in this video. I didn't even talk about lore in the 1 hour 20 minute video, so we're definitely not talking about it now. So what you'll find is it puts you on a world map, and this is something like Mountain Blade, where you have lots of settlements all over the place, and you have enemy parties, which are just these circles, and you are the dark blue circle. The red circles are hostile to you, the green circles are friendly to you, so are the light blue circles. That's easy enough. So your objective in the game is to prevent the red team from defeating the green team, and preferably for you to conquer the red team. Well, not you specifically, your allies. So what you can do is you can attack these settlements. You'll have to fight these parties in battle sequences, which we'll show in a moment, and if you win, you can choose to give the settlement to one of the allied factions, the light blues or the greens. We'll show that in practice in a second. So when you select your party, these are your party members. They have classes and they have stats. You can see a menu by clicking on them to see those stats, and I'll talk extremely briefly later about what the stats do. The only thing to know in this menu really is that first you can equip things onto your agents, as they're called, to use them in battle. So I'm actually not going to give this to him. You can say put these first aid items on your agents so they can heal in battles. might be useful. I'm sure that makes sense to you. You can also change their weapons, and you do start with one weapon in the party's inventory, which is better than what your guys tend to have equipped. So let's say you get that. There we go. You can also change your party members' names, like so. So you want to give them names that mean you feel endeared to them and you wouldn't possibly want them to die, so that if they die you get very sad, because there is permadeath in this game, like Fire Emblem or like in XCOM. So you can just go through and name them as you see fit. Once you're satisfied with your equipment and stuff, you can start taking actions in the game. So the blue area is where you can move when you have one of your guys selected, which is left click, by the way. Left click to select, right click to take actions, and left click to unselect. So I could say left click on my guy, I could say like I'm going to move to there. So you right click on the place, and once you get there it gives you options for what to do, and this is true both on the world map and in battles. And you always have the option to say no, and you also always have the option to say wait, which will just end your turn. We don't want to do that right now though. So what we're going to do is start a fight. We're going to fight this guy. You start next to a really easy enemy party as like a tutorial, so you can use this to get into the game a little bit. And we can actually fight them right now. You can fight anything that's adjacent to you. However, if we fought them while standing in this settlement, this blue allied army would reinforce, and we don't want that because we want to get all the experience for ourselves. Reinforcements work where it's just anything adjacent to any of the two main parties in the fight will get involved. So we're the two main parties, the one we're attacking and us. So anything here, 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 or here would get involved. But if I just move to here, and now I'm allowed to start the fight because I'm still hostile to them, but now this blue party isn't next to either of us, so it's not involved. So when I say start this battle, it's just us, just the two parties. You get this little thing that shows you what's going on. You can auto-resolve any battle. I wouldn't recommend doing it if it's 3 stars or more, because you might lose a party member, and there is permadeath, as I said. And you can also save here. Just hit escape and lay down a save. So if you're paranoid about what's going to happen in the battle, which you probably should be, lay down a save. There we go. Just overwrite that old save. I've got so many saves. It's really annoying. It actually defaults to show you the oldest save. Like, it scrolls to the bottom for you. I don't know why. We'll sort that out one day. Anyway, and then you fight battles. So I'll quickly explain the battle system. I'm going to just brush over this because I think you'll be able to work it out. So you have your party members. They have various stats, and if you mouse over the stats it kind of tells you specifically what they all are. But broadly speaking, it's damage, magic attack and damage, chance to hit, a thing that determines how many hits you get, and defense, resistance to damage. So for example, something that like this enemy only has 5 attack, Devin has 10 defense, so because his defense is higher than their attack, he actually can't take damage fighting that enemy. So that's the sort of thing. You need to look at the stats and just work out what's probably going to happen in fights between various units, and that will help you with your tactics. So it's a turn-based tactics game, similar to Fire Emblem, very similar to Fire Emblem, or similar to XCOM. All you do is you pick your guys, you choose where to move, and it highlights where you can move in the current turn, and you do it. It's probably best to keep all of your guys together, so we'll try and keep them together by just moving into a clump and then going around these trees to fight the enemies on the other side. You can also go through the trees if you want. When you mouse over a tile, you can see in the bottom left it tells you what it is. It tells you the amount of movement points it takes to go through it, and it tells you this little shield thing, which is like a evasion bonus you get when you're standing on that tile. So if I was standing in the trees, I get a bonus of 10, and that means anything that's coming towards me is 10% less likely to hit, and that's on absolute terms rather than relative. So say it had a 50% chance to hit, its chance goes down to 40% rather than going down to 45%, which is what it would be if it was relative. Does that make sense? Subtract 10 from number, get new number. You can do it. So we're going to bunch our guys together, and I'll just go over a couple of useful battle controls. Firstly, you can tell people to move outside of their movement range, and it will just remember where you told them to go, and in the next turn it will keep trying to get there. So I'm going to use that to form up here without having to do anything. I'm going to just choose wait for now as all the options like this. So now all my guys are together, and we're ignoring these other options to keep things simple right now. I just need to take one more turn to completely finish that off. So this enemy has aggroed towards me. The way fighting works is once you get close to enemies, they'll start coming at you. How close you have to get depends on what difficulty you picked. They will also, after aggroing onto you, they will pass the aggro on to other members of their party, and that also depends on the difficulty level. If you picked easy, it doesn't happen at all. If you pick normal, as I did, one other party member will come with them, and if you picked hard, 2 other party members will come with them. So, now that we know the enemy are aggroed onto us, we can get ready to fight them. So let's sort of form up like this. Now as you move, if you hold shift and then right click, instead of just right clicking to move somewhere, it doesn't come up with the menu to say wait. It just presumes you want to wait. So use that when you're just moving around and you can't bother to go, wait. You just shift move and it does it for you. So these guys are running at me. One's got a spear, one's got a sword. There are ranged weapons in the game. This guy back here has a ranged weapon. We'll fight him later. It's 2 stalwart classes. This is the tank class in the game. That's it. So they have high defense, but they're unlikely to do much damage to me. So what I'm going to want to do is hit them with something that does a lot of damage. So I'm going to use Mari, who is a breaker. That is a DPS class. And while we're here, I'll quickly explain that Kajiro, the fighter, well, he's not always called Kajiro. Anyone with a fighter class is the generic class who's okay with all stats. Negiko, our synergist. This is a mix between a fighter and this other class, the Machinist. The Machinist is a mage, essentially. They have Mac as their skill, and they're special in that their stats work ever so slightly differently, because most things will use attack against the enemy's defense to determine damage, can't even say it. But your Machinists use magic against the enemy's magic to determine damage. So, for example, this enemy has very low magic, so he'll be weak against Jung-Gyun once he gets close. So that's good to know. And as I said, the Synergist is a mix between the Machinist and the Fighter in that they can equip magic weapons, which most of the others can't, but they're just not quite as good with them. And the Duelist, our last class, is based on skill and speed, so they just have high chance to hit and high chance to get multiple hits, but they tend not to do all that much damage and they're easy to kill. So let's just keep ending turn for a second, because these guys are aggroed onto me, so I'm just going to get them to run at me so I don't have to move. And that's always a good idea, because if you have to move forwards to attack enemies, you might aggro even more enemies onto you. This is a thing that anyone who played Fire Emblem may remember. Same in XCOM actually. You know, in XCOM, while they move in pods, it's always best to just sort of stay still and let the pods come to you so you don't accidentally trigger lots at the same time. So now that they're close, we'll get into the fighting, and once I've showed you how fighting works, I'll probably just cheat to end this battle, because you'll have seen everything you need to know. Weapons have range. It doesn't actually tell you their range anywhere, but you can see it on the map. So magic weapons can fire 2 spaces. They can hit either in front of you or 1 space away. So for example, this enemy, who only has a sword, he can only hit 1 space around him. So what I can do is stand 2 spaces away. Now I can hit him without him hitting me. I'm going to click attack to set up an attack, and it tells you what will happen if you do attack. So here the enemy can do 0 damage with 0% probability and will hit me 0 times, and that's because he's out of my range. Whereas I will do 6 damage, so that's my magic of 8 minus his magic of 10. It's actually called machine. I'm saying magic to be user friendly. It's called it's machine. Let's say machine. My machine of 8 minus his machine of 2 means we'll be doing 6 damage. We have a 70% chance to hit. That's the base chance to hit when both sides have the same amount of skill, and for every point more skill you have than them, you get a 10% chance extra to hit. So if you have 3 more skill than the enemy, you're guaranteed to hit. If you have 7 more skill than them, they can never hit you. So that makes you very powerful. I'm just going to confirm this attack and see if it goes through. It did. We got the 6 damage, and normally the enemy would counter-attack there, but because he couldn't hit me, he can't. Let's just show a quick example of that. If my Synergist came in to melee range, since we've got a sword, they've also got the same sword. I can do 3 damage with 60%, they can do 6 damage with 80%, a very unfavourable engagement. I'll just do it to show how it works. We missed, they hit, and we lost a bunch of health. So that didn't go very well, that was a bad move. And as you can see, we're gaining experience from fighting, and every time you gain 100 experience points, you will level up, and the stats that increase when you level up are dependent on what your class is. We probably won't level up in this little demo because everyone's on 0 experience, but you'll see it and you'll know what I mean when you see it. So like Devin, being a stalwart, will tend to increase his defense when he levels up. It's just, there's a probability to increase each stat. That's taken from Fire Emblem as well. I'm just going to stand here with Devin because now the enemy won't be able to pass by because the tiles on either side of him are impassable. And because I'm such a higher level than him, I can just beat him with brute force. I can just hit him with the stick, and he will eventually die. And you can see he can't get out of this little thing of trees he's stuck himself into. He'll have to go backwards if he wants to do anything. So we can now ignore that enemy and focus everyone down on this enemy. Tactics! Kojiro has a bow. A bow has 3 range. It also has a negative range, so it can't hit things immediately adjacent to you, but you can hit things far away. So from here, I can fire that enemy. I'm not going to do much damage because this enemy is a tank class. They can just absorb damage. So we'll just fire. We missed anyway. So that's basically how battle works. I think you get the idea. The only thing to keep in mind is that if I take, say, Naruko over here. So say I was fighting with this enemy. Oh, by the way, cheat. Click on anything and then control click somewhere else and it teleports them there. This is a sort of a demo thing you can do just to cheat to test things out. So if I was fighting this enemy, notice this enemy has javelins. Javelins are a ranged weapon. They can only attack 2 spaces away, but they can't attack things immediately adjacent to them. They have what's called a negative range. That means if I just run up to them and attack, then again I can't get the counter attack. So this is the other way round to what I did with the magic just earlier. I'm too close to them for them to attack. They will, of course, in their turn just take a step back and then throw a javelin at me. So I'm still in danger of being hit, but at least for this first attack, I'm not going to take any return damage. So that's the sort of thing you need to keep in mind. When setting up what specific attacks and what moves you're going to do, there are ways to make sure you aren't going to get damaged if you look at the various weapon setups. Now, there are 2 other things to mention about battles, which I think is worthwhile. One are these bases. Bases are points where you can actually leave the battle. So if I have a damaged unit like Nagako, and I'm just going to cheat here, if I had actually managed to move Nagako next to my base, I could click on camp here, and you can withdraw your damaged agents. That will stop them from dying, of course, because there is permadeath. So now they're out of the fight, and for every turn they're out of the fight, they'll actually regain some health, so later on I can bring Nagako back at full health to continue the fight. Now the other thing you can do is take enemy bases. So I'll take Mari here, and say I managed to stand on this enemy base, you get an extra action here. Capture the base. There we go. So it basically puts the base on our side, and that also ended our turn because all of our people have now acted. They're going wild on us. Oh, that was a good dodge. They had a very high probability to hit and we got away with it. And this soldier here is just going to fight with Devin. He will eventually fail. He has no way of winning there. So that's all well and good. Jung-gyun took a hit because the enemy close to melee range. The friction program, the magic, unlike javelins, while it can attack 2 spaces, can also attack 1, so it's a bit more versatile. You can't get into the negative range of magic. So that's that. Now, because a turn has passed, Nagako has finished getting into reserve. It kind of takes a turn to get into the reserve party. Now I can bring her back out. You can choose where to deploy your reserves by clicking on the base that you own. So I could even do it over here with Mari if I want, for example. So once that little arrow's over it, that means you've got it selected, and I'm going to say, Nagako, come back in. Our health's gone back up slightly. I probably need to leave her in another turn to get full health, but we'll just do it anyway. There we go. And once they've deployed, they can act immediately. So once enemies are close to your bases, if you draw them close to your bases, for example, you can just sort of suddenly spring out with some agents in reserve and just start going wild on them. Almost got the kill, down to 1 health. And there you have it. You get experience for every hit you deal, and you get experience for killing enemies. You get a lot more for killing them, of course. And the experience you get is based on the level difference between you. So enemies that are lower level than you aren't particularly helpful to fight, although it will be easy at least. And once they're 7 levels below you, you pretty much stop getting experience at all, because in this game, level differences matter quite a lot. It's a bit like in Pokemon. I think they balanced it like this. Once you're like 2 or 3 levels above an enemy, you're quite likely to be a lot better than them. Once you're 5 levels above them, you'll just annihilate them. Like Devin here can't take damage here. He's just invincible. The enemy can only do 0 damage. So I'm just sitting here slashing away. We just killed that guy for no penalty whatsoever. There was no risk, and it's just because we're a higher level than them. He dropped some gear and gave us some resource points, which we'll see after the battle, which... Actually, we can probably just win this battle right now. We've almost got it. Oops. Kojiro only has a bow. You can see the negative range there. I got too close and I can't attack, so I need to stand, say, here and take a shot. 2 damage. There we go, got 2 damage. There's one other thing I need to show you in fights. I'll show you in the next fight. So this is your introduction to fighting. This is how it basically works. You move, attack with your weapons, kill enemies, they drop things, and there are bases where you can withdraw and deploy agents. And it's a very good idea to withdraw agents who are about to die. Come in here with Naruto and get a kill there. That's going to finish off the enemies. That first fight is really easy. You just fight a couple of level 1 guys. Just gets you into things. And you can have a little play around with the mechanics that I showed you there. So now we'll quickly look at what happens after a battle. You gain loot, so you gain resources based on the level of the people you killed, and you also gain extra resources depending on what party type it was. That party was a supply train, which means I got more resources than I would have otherwise. You also get loot. So basically there's a chance for an enemy to drop the weapon they're carrying or to drop any items they're carrying, and that will be given to you after the battle here. And this thing is reputation. You gain reputation points. These are like your 2 currencies. You have resources, which is down here at the bottom, and reputation. Reputation is just used to unlock passive bonuses. You don't need to worry too much about that, or at all really in this demo. Resources is what you really need to keep an eye on. It tells you the experience you got and stuff over there. We'll carry on. So doing a battle ends your turn, so it now goes on to the next turn. And you can see our allied forces are guarding our base for us here, these AML troops. Your AML bases spawn troops to defend them, so you don't need to worry too much about the enemy taking them. But if the enemy does look like they're coming to take one of your bases, you'll want to use this little trick. You can select a location, click on info to bring up a menu pertaining to that location. If the location has a shop, like this one does, it tells you what's for sale there. We'll look at that more in a second. But if you go into the info tab, you can, as well as seeing some lore information and what the name means in their native language, you can increase the level of the location. That's what this star is up here. So let's do it a couple of times to Persao, for example. It goes from level 1 to level 3. And what that means is if I reselect the party, its party members have all leveled up. And if it spawns any more parties in the future, they'll also be leveled up as well. So this just makes it easy to defend. If an enemy AI party came down to try and take it, it would now have a harder time. So you can use your resources like that to increase the defenses of your bases, but you can do that to any settlement. So I can see here that Caspida is actually about to be attacked. The enemy, the Yunbas, what that faction is called, the Reds basically, for our basic tutorial, have just spawned an invasion force outside their castle. Invasion forces are a type of party that tries to take territory for their faction, and they spawn from military type locations such as these castles. Well, they're forts actually. Castles are a different type of thing in the game. So because it's very likely to go and just attack this place, I could have spent my money upgrading this place instead, so that my ally wouldn't lose this territory. Because I didn't, there's a decent chance they'll actually lose it. So we've seen how battle mechanics work. I'm going to show you one more battle and very briefly explain something you can do on the world map to help you out. You can take the locations, as I said, and to take a location you just fight a battle against a party that's inside it. Or if there is no party inside it, you just go and stand on it and you'll get the chance to capture it. So for example here at Washu, I can just walk up next to it, and that gives me the option to fight them. I'll cancel that for a second to briefly explain something you'll want to do on the world map. So you need to choose which ones you want to go and fight, of course. That's part of the strategy. You don't have to fight them all. It's not up to you to win the war. Your side has to win, and you just have to do things that make your side win. Now there are various ways you can do that, but there are 2 important ones that I'll just tell you now to help you out because I'm a nice guy. One is capturing locations that say they're an outpost. Outposts spawn parties called guards as opposed to these ones which spawn garrisons. Garrisons just stand there, whereas guards will hunt down anything that's nearby that is hostile to them. So, for example, if I took Washu, that's an outpost. That would mean anything coming down to try and take either Washu or Persao back would be attacked by the garrison, by the guards I should say, at Washu. They would rush out and attack anything coming around these corners. So if I took it and then leveled it up, I could make sure that enemy parties can never get to this part of the map because they'll always just be killed by the garrison here, the guards here, you know what I mean. So that's one tactic, and I'll point out that there are outposts here and here which you can also use to disrupt the enemy. Now, the main thing you'll be disrupting is their supply routes. I don't see any supply trains. There's one. The locations that aren't military locations, so aren't forts, and don't spawn invasion forces to fight, they still take part in the war because they spawn supply trains which move resources to these locations. You can see each location has a resource bank, and you need to have enough resources to spawn these parties. So see Shad Pakesfair, which just spawned an invasion force. It has almost nothing because it spent all its money buying this party. But to get more, it's going to have to get supply trains from all of these places that are just generating money but can't spend it on invasions. So instead they spend it on supply trains, which move the money to forts. The forts spawn invasions, and they will attack things. So all that means, if you capture things like Statsikar, which is an outpost, any supply trains which were moving along this road to go towards the castles would get attacked by your forces. So you don't need to do it, you don't need to be there, just get an allied settlement in the middle of their supply route to be annoying. Just have a little fortification behind enemy lines and they'll be in trouble. You can use that to turn the war in your favour. You can also attack the supply trains yourself if you want to micro it. That will give you more experience, and when you attack a supply train you get the resources it was carrying, so that's a really quick way to make tons of money. I'll tell you what to do with money after one more quick demonstration of battling. So we're going to fight in a location now. This is a harder battle, this is more normal. Both sides are about equally matched in this engagement. Location battles have bigger maps, and they generally are a bit longer, these fights, because you have to sort of move and you can pick different routes to go through the map. Like here I can walk up to the gates, or I can actually climb across these fences. These barriers are passable, although these stakes cost 5 movement points to move through, and Jungyun and Devon only have 4 per turn, so they actually can't get across those stakes. Everyone else can, so I could raid in there, but looking at the enemy's formation, there's no real advantage to sneaking in because a lot of their guys are actually in the base, so I'm not going to come at them from 2 sides. So now I'm going to show you the other main battle mechanic, and this is the most important battle mechanic. Let's just end that turn. This guy's going to try and hit me, but he can't do anything. So here we go. We've got a combat scenario. There's a couple of enemies coming at us right now. Now what you'll often find is that you can't use your whole team at once to attack the enemy just because of movement and because of things blocking each other. So Jungyun here can't hit this enemy, but what he can do is help an ally attack the enemy using what's called the boost system. Jungyun can't attack, so what I'm going to do is first move Naruko into this space where she can attack, and I'll just make this melee attack 2 damage. Duelists don't do much damage, and because I don't quite have enough speed, I couldn't get 2 attacks there. Devon can attack and Jungyun can't, so I'm going to move into the forest behind Devon and use this. The boost feature is like the main thing you need to keep in mind for fighting. Like beyond the basic tactics of turn-based tactics, this is the thing unique to the game that makes it work properly and makes it, in my opinion, quite a lot more balanced and tactical. What the boost does is it increases the stats of the members adjacent to you, so you can do it in the middle of 4 of your allies to make them all have better stats. They will all get +1 skill, and they will get additionally +1 to something else based on what your class is. So I'm a machinist here, so that'll give +1 machine skill to my guys. That's irrelevant in this situation since we're not being attacked by magic, so that's wasted, but this skill is very useful. All classes always give skill when they boost, so I'll click boost. So Kajiro and Devon, as you can see, both have their skill increased, but this only lasts for 1 turn, so you have to use it immediately. So all I've done there is increase Devon's chance to hit. His chance to hit is so high that he now has a 100% chance to damage the enemy. What I might want to do is make him do more damage as well, so I could try boosting him with Mari as well. Now he has +2 skill because he's been boosted twice, and he's given an extra damage point. So that just means I can come down here, make this attack with Devon. It's guaranteed to hit. It's going to not kill him, take off most of his health, get him very close to death. And since I couldn't have used Jungyun for anything else, I've made use of him in the turn still. So that's a handy thing about using the boost system. And you'll also find, hopefully, that the boost system comes in essential for taking down strong enemies, for guaranteeing hits that are like really clutch and you have to make them. You can try boosting the person making it to increase their skill so that they'll make it, or doing things like giving someone 1 extra attack so they'll do that 1 extra damage that will kill an enemy, or giving them 1 extra speed so that their speed will give them multiple attacks in a round to make them much more powerful. So the way the boost system works is quite important, basically. It will change everything. This enemy, I was going to say we could try and use boost defensively, but because he's got a bow, he can shoot pretty much anyone, so there's no point saying like I'm going to boost this specific individual up because I think they're going to get hit. The boost lasts through the enemy's turn as well, so if they tried to hit Devon, they'd find it almost impossible because he'll still have his skill upgrade, which will make him just dodge everything. Let's just end the turn and see what they do for a second. I didn't even use all my party members there, so that's not the way to play. Oh, Mary missing an 80% shot. Very disappointing. Come on, Devon. Devon missed an 80% hit. Everyone's just missing. It does work, by the way. It's not glitched. That was just very unlucky for both sides. So hopefully I've explained how the boost system kind of works. And the thing to keep in mind is that it does boost everyone around you. So you can try and be like efficient with it. Like here, Kajiro could move to here and boost 3 party members. So even though he could have actually hit the enemy this turn, maybe it's going to increase my performance to have 3 guys with +2 skill. The fighter class, by the way, gives you 2 skill upgrades rather than 1, but it doesn't increase anything else. So now all these guys have +20% chance to hit, which might give them a 100% chance to hit. So that might make things quite easy. There we go. I can just kill that enemy. He can't shoot me back because he died on the first attack. Things like that are pretty nice. It gets rid of some of the RNG element of these turn-based tactics games, which I really don't like. And the enemy actually can't boost. So this is just your AML skill. This is something only the player can do. So use it to your advantage, ladies and gentlemen, to win. And basically we'll fight our way through these enemies and win eventually. But if you can't be bothered to do that, I'm dying. You click win battle. And it just deletes the enemy, so that's another cheat for you. You can also click on any enemy and press Control Delete and it'll get rid of that individual. I'm actually dying. So here's the results. We killed everyone, and because the battle was fought over a settlement, you choose which side to give it to. You can choose to give it to Meshmedan, which is this symbol, or the light blue symbol, the Lumidans. Now the little smiley face and the thumbs up, the smiley face means they want to be this faction, the people want to be this faction, and they give you half of the settlement's resources into your account if you pick that. The other option means the faction you're working for wants you to pick this one, they want you to pick them basically, and that'll give you extra reputation. We don't really need reputation, so we'll go with Meshmedan to take their resources. So that's that. It's been given over to an AI. There are enough resources there for the AI to spawn a party to defend it, and they're good to go. And I can go somewhere else and come up with a new strike. To begin the game, you probably want to do easy strikes to get levels up and experience and stuff. So you could strike Boostra, super easy battle. Valut's first, super easy. You can even, if you're feeling very ambitious, you can sneak across the top of the map and take things like this and this, which are easy to take. They won't have much impact on the enemy's economy, but because they'll have to go and take them back, they'll just distract them from attacking your side. It also looks like the forces at Caspida held their ground. They've lost some party members. They'll slowly replenish their party members over time. I think I might have explained everything you need to know to play the game. Actually, there's one more thing, and that is shopping. If you stand next to a town that has a shop in it, and you can see if it has a shop by clicking on it and going into the info thing that I showed earlier, it'll tell you what's available. You can shop there, and in particular there are AML shops, so this is at your AML base. You can create bases elsewhere in the map, but I think in this demo this is the only one you have. Like the ones you can create are somewhere really far away, so you'll just have to come back here for now to use the AML shop. The AML shop lets you buy more party members. We can't afford any right now, but you can switch to use the regular shop that most locations have, and I could sell some things off. So I'll sell some random stuff I've got in my inventory, like these loot items. Now I've got a load of resources and I can buy that new party member. You can buy weapons, and I recommend you take a look through these weapons. The weapons you can buy in the AML shop are better than anywhere else, so really you only want to shop here, and they are they're definitely worth getting. Like Smith Axe is a very good weapon. If you just gave everyone a Smith Axe, you wouldn't be going too far wrong. So take a look through that yourself and buy things, and definitely want to buy some first aid items just in case you're taking damage. And you can use an item in a battle. You might have seen it, it's an action. You'll work it out. You use it instead of waiting, basically. And I can't bother to explain anymore. I think we've got the gist. Once you've done your shopping and got some money, you can click AML shop to come back to this menu, and now I'll buy an extra party member. You can largely ignore this. This is part of the much deeper campaign mechanics that I'm not actually going to bother explaining in this video. So just don't use it for demo purposes, and you can ask me or try and work out for yourself what it actually does. It's to do with this menu. If you click on this thing on the bottom, there's this menu where you can see faction reputation, you can see your own inventories, and you can see what the other factions are doing. They have scores, and the scores do bonus effects. I'm not going to talk about all that. And there's a little codex here which explains some details of the lore. You'll also get more lore by clicking on any location and looking at its info, and explains various things about it. And there's one other thing, if you come to places like this where it says unknown or something in grey text and you step on top of them, you'll get an additional action called Investigate Point of Interest. That can occasionally reveal lore, but more often will give you resources and money and things. And as a little pro tip, there's one right there. near the start, so if you go and get that right at the start, you can probably afford some really good weapons to get things going. Make the game in general much easier. So that's that. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to see what you can do with that information. There's a lot more to talk about in terms of like in-depth strategies and optimal ways to play, to do as well as you can, but I don't think that's important. I think at this point, just have a go if you'd like. Tell me what you think of it. Tell me what you think of the controls and the mechanics, and whether you can get a grip of the mechanics easily, and I don't know, the balancing, I guess. And if you find bugs, of course, that's going to be important, so do let me know about any bugs. And just in general, any features you think would be good to have or good to get rid of. And I'll compare it to my little list that I've got over there of what I plan to do, and see if it changes my mind for the creation of a better version of this game. And hopefully the next version of the game will have the map tiles done, so it's not just Devon's MS Paint, but it's decent enough for representing what's going on as it stands, I think. And yeah, there are lots of graphical improvements and things like that to come. I'm out of here. I've been off VD. Do explore this little game for free and tell me what you think in the comments. I would be very appreciative. And I guess that's it. I'm going to keep working on this game. Probably for ages. It took about a year to get to this point. In another year, maybe we'll have something looking a lot more complete. Thanks for watching. My voice is gone. I'm supposed to record this as content after this. I don't think we're going to be able to do it. I have to record a narration for another channel as well. You've ruined my life making me do this video. So please play the game to make up for how ruined my life is. I'll see you in another video.